Live and direct. It's the Bro Diallo Show, broadcasting out of the sanctuary city of Chirac. Chitopia for some and Chirac for others. It is a very historic day of March 6th in the year of your Lord, 2017. We have a lot to get into today. Some good news, but everybody knows since I'm Mr. Unaligned Chakras, Mr. Emit negative vibrations, I'm not accustomed to delivering good news, so I'm going to have to taint it with some reality. But hey, that's what you're tuning into the Bro Diallo Show for. So let's jump in with both feet. We got a lot to get into. Hey, first thing I want to say out the gate. Well, the first thing I have to say is this is Q4 Radio, AM 1680. Broadcasting again out of Chirac, a.k.a. Chitopia, a.k.a. the city of broad and unrelenting contradictions. But as our most honored and beloved citizen, icons, martyrs of this city, Chairman Fred Hampton, we can subvert this system by simply raising the contradictions. Now, what I want to say is to everybody, wish everybody a happy Ghana Independence Day. This is the day that in the nation, the first nation to beat off the colonial shackles of the British. Ghana. Today is the Independence Day. They've been independent. Flag independence, as Dr. John Henry Clark said it. But hey, we'll take it, man. We are struggling people. We are oppressed people. We are besieged people. So we got to take wins where we can get. We eat L soup every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So let's take this L. Let's not sully it. But the nation formerly known as the Gold Coast, which is what the British imperialists, invaders, slavers, rapers used to call Ghana, the Gold Coast, until the great legendary Kwame Nkrumah came and transformed the nation into a democratic republic. So, we'll have some insights and celebrations. We'll see what we can get into. But today is Ghana Independence Day, and we want to always recognize our struggles and triumphs. And we also want to do some deep reflection and analysis of our losses so that we can do better in the near future. So shout out to Ghana. Shout out to all my brothers and sisters on the continent of Ghana. Shout out to the Ghana expat community all over the world. We got brothers and sisters from Ghana in all over the United States, Latin America, Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, I guess, Russia, China, the UK. Brothers and sisters, they're very, very robust and proud people of Ghana who have given us not just great revolutionaries, but great culture, arts, and music, and one of the countries that is most receptive to black repatriation, to reaching out to the African diaspora, to return home, to visit the slave castles, to return to our history, return to our roots. Many of us, brothers and sisters, know they have historical and genetic roots from the great nation of Ghana, because it was one of the major slave ports, one of the major entry ports for European invasions, and exit ports and extraction ports for African captives. So like I said, there's a lot of history there. Our great Dr. John Henry Clark, his first academic abroad study was done in Ghana when he talked about he was living in the slums of Accra, and the very president of the nation, Kwame Nkrumah, brought him in, set him up, gave him the resources he needed to continue his studies. I mean, Ghana is definitely a nation that every African should hold, African of the continent and African of the diaspora, should hold with great respect and reverence. So Happy Independence Day, Ghana. And my favorite artist coming out of Ghana, I'll share some of his music, so just hold that back for a surprise. But there's some more good news. Not just today is the Independence Day of the first nation to throw off the colonial shackles of the parasitic Europeans. You know. And we're not even going to sully that by talking about the neo-colonial conditions that the British have established and the U.S. has established in Ghana, or even the Sinocentric empire of China, the emerging global empire of China. We're not going to sully that. We're not even going to talk about that. But I want to got some more good news. Today is the first full week of no homicides in the city of Chirac, of Chitopia, the sanctuary city of suffering, in the last 4 years. So Sunday, don't count today, because I don't know, I haven't checked today, but from yesterday till the previous Sunday, there was a full week without any homicides, particularly gun homicides and shootings. Now there was some gun violence, there were some assaults, but no homicides. I mean, hey, again, like I said, let's take our victories where we can get them. Let's celebrate when there's opportunities to celebrate, and let's hate and despair where there's appropriate time and space for despair. But I think, now, I don't know, I know I said it before, but I'll just restate, I think there's a big difference between peace and pacification. Pacification is when you bring a cessation of violence, assaults, and basically dysfunction, while the systems and institutions of oppression and exploitation still remain. That's pacification. Peace is when there is the absence of violence in the face of justice. The absence of violence as a result of there being no exploitation, no oppression, no discrimination, and the resources are justly and fairly distributed amongst the citizens. That's peace. So we have a lot of people that are pacified. And so the upper classes, they're pacified by giving, high levels of consumption. But they don't have peace. All of their consumption, all of their comfort, all of the things that they enjoy in life come from suffering of other people. You got a man who lives in the south suburbs. He's got a picket fence, his McMansion, his 2 SUVs for him and his wife. His wife got the best sew-ins and breast implants. A dude living a good life, having everything he could ever want. He goes to all the ball games to watch millionaire ball chasers, chase balls for billionaires. Just a dude who has everything, a closet full of Jordans and Florshimes. His little ugly ass kids got the little private school, or he played the school Hunger Games and got his kid into some selective enrollment. You got a guy who has all this. Now this dude is not about to take up a pistol and run up on nobody. He might have a gun to protect his property, but he's not about to rob you. If he does engage in some violence, he'll probably do it behind closed doors, beat up on his wife and kids maybe. But this ain't the guy who would come out and engage in the kind of violence that gets everybody all up in the tizzy. Street violence. What they call lower caste or lower class violence. But this same individual whom we would probably look up to as a role model, you would probably bring to the schools and have him give an inspirational talk to the other kids. This dude lives a violent life. Let's say he's an executive somewhere. He works for a multinational corporation, or he works for some type of civic organization. He might have to cut your lights off to keep his lights on. He might have to pass legislation or enforce some policy to deny your kids education so that he can bring forth a better education for his children. See how that goes? The man cutting off your lights has to cut off your lights or his lights get cut off. The man cutting off your heat has to cut off your heat to keep his heat on. The man cutting off your phone got to cut off, and so it goes. So everybody has to, the system of capitalism demands dog eat dog, cannibalize each other. But then there's certain forms of violence where it's not as exciting. It's not action movie violence. There's no blood squirting. There's no corpses strewn about. It's that slow rotting erosion. You know, that pick away, that death by 1,000 cuts. You have physicians who we all look up to. Oh, doctors, doctor this. We got a doctor running housing and urban development. Don't know what the hell he's doing. Thank God I made my way up out of public housing, and if there was a God, I'd pray for him, pray to him to help people who are currently in public housing. Shout out to public housing. Kept me in shelter. I don't have no qualms. Give everybody shelter for free or base everybody's rent on their income. Public housing was the bomb. Shout out to FDR first and then to Lyndon Baines Johnson. Great society policy. You know, shout out to that. I ain't got no qualms. And then people like Jay-Z, who used to push drugs in the projects, he claimed, used to shoot up the projects, pimp hoes in the projects. You bastards. You took what could have been a great socialist utopian condition and brought it down like Bobby brought down Whitney. That ain't right. But anyway, that's not even my point. My point is, you have someone who's a physician, right? And you say, physicians don't rob people. Physicians don't rob and steal and do wrong by other people. But physicians do kill people. A lot of people. Thousands of people, in fact. But you go and say, well, don't join the gang, become a doctor. Well, I guess you could do both. Apparently, I don't want to harp on housing Secretary Ben Carson, but he did say he used to tote guns. You know, everybody thought gifted hands was because he was a skilled surgeon. But then we learned on the campaign trail that gifted hands really mean that he could two-piece you in the head. He used to throw them hands right. That's why. Because he was such a gangster, stabbing people, you know, running the streets. You know, if he hadn't went to school, ain't no telling what. We all would have been dead by now at his hands. But anyway, he said, go be a doctor. And so the doctors can look down on the street thugs, but the doctors, I've worked in healthcare. I've seen people come into the hospital with a life-threatening illness. And the physicians, the nurses staff, the allied health professionals, and the facility itself has all the resources it needs to save this person's life. And they turn to this person and say, no. You must go home. You do not have a little plastic card. You do not have the little pieces of fiat currency. You do not have what it takes to be worthy of this scientific salvation. To me, that's murder. That's murder. If I'm walking down the street and I see a child in distress, I see someone who is in distress and I have the capacity to help them, and I step over them, maybe it's not murder, but it's still, you're an accomplice. You're an immoral person. That's an act of violence, if you ask me. It's an act of violence. But again, we don't call it that. So all I'm saying is that the society, everybody is violent. There's nobody, if the more comfortable you are, and the only difference between the street thug out here robbing people, selling drugs, and committing violence to sustain his own life, and the physician or the black executive living on high off the hog, is that some people, the more money you have, the more sterilizing distance you can have between the violence that sustains you and the results of the violence that sustains you. So if I get money, you know, even the people we love, like we mentioned Beyonce and we mentioned Jay-Z, but can you mention Jay-Z without Beyonce? Can you mention, I mean, they are one. They are fused into one mega divine being. Sweatshops in Sri Lanka. I've never owned a pair of Rocawear or anything, but I'm sure if we looked on those labels, we'd see the tip made in China. If not China, Hacienda in Mexico. If not Mexico, Vietnam. If not Vietnam, then in Honduras. And not Honduras, then in Haiti. And so go. I know it's made somewhere overseas. And the reason why it's made overseas is because they got very low wages and next to no environmental standards, which is what's coming back to America, bringing them jobs back to America. Now we can be malnourished sweatshop workers. America first. But so that's the violence. But he, you know, like him, Jordan, these people never have to go over there. They never have to go and beat the child laborers with canes. They never have to go over there and fight and kill the Marxist guerrillas who demand that the resources of the nation be used for the citizens of the nations, not for foreign corporations. They don't have to go over there and suppress, populist uprisings and protests. They don't have to do that. They can sit in Beverly Hills and they got people to do that. So they have a sterilizing distance from their violence. The most violent man, the most militant man in the history of all of the world was Barack Obama. For the 8 years he was in office, the man had the nuclear codes. The man could order deaths across the globe at his disposal. Julian Assange snitched. And Edward Snowden snitched. That's one good thing about having a black man in office. A lot of white folks, but then they snitch now an orange man too. Now, I didn't know. I always knew about black discrimination and yellow discrimination and discrimination of the red man. But apparently, orange men get no love either. They snitching on Trump harder than they snitched on Obama. Even Cameron came out with a video encouraging snitching. So orange people, we need an orange civil rights movement. But anyway, Obama was a very violent and vicious black man, but he was brought to Hyde Park High School on the south side in the violence-plagued south side of Chicago to speak to the young people about violence. And just sitting 10 feet away from him was a man with a briefcase with nuclear codes in it. And he's telling young black men not to do violence. So this is and so the whole thing of violence. Now, I'm not trying to sully the fact that Chicago has went Sunday to Sunday, has went one Sunday to another Sunday without one gun homicide in the entire city. Glory! Glory! Look at God. If it wasn't so early, and I haven't had enough of my trace amount of caffeine from my green tea, I'd probably do a Holy Ghost thing. Glory! A full week, Sunday to Sunday. Hey, I'm not hating on that. Shout out to every one of you, my young brothers and sisters, and my older brothers and sisters that's still out there in the trap. Shout out to y'all. Y'all made it. And not just y'all who didn't get shot, but y'all who didn't do the shooting. Shout out to y'all. Let's go another week. Let's make it, y'all. Let's do it, Chicago. Shoot, if they're going to have a sanctuary in the Hispanic communities, they're going to have a sanctuary in the white communities. Let's go on and build our own damn sanctuary. They ain't welcoming us to us. Our own damn former Black Panther congressman who's resided over decades of oppression, gentrification, homicide, drugs, for the first time has created a grand act of defiance against the government, saying that, since first time in office, that anybody who feels that they're under threat of ICE, of immigration, under threat of deportation, under threat of detainment, he said, make your way to my office. And my office is open to all undocumented. And ain't none of these people voted for him. Maybe they would have, but they can't even legally vote. I haven't heard him make such an offer. And I see Bobby Rush in his black SUV with the tinted windows. I still see him up and down. He's always over there by Cottage Grove, always over there by the University of Chicago campus. Like I said, I live in the hood, but I got, I'm used to the finer things. I like my asparagus to be organic. So I do venture over. My wife and I, we call it siphoning. We're going to the nice neighborhoods and getting some nice things and then scurrying back to the ghetto. So we come across Cottage Grove, and we go over there. They've got nice little independent bookstores, a little used bookstore, book co-op, in fact. They got a Whole Foods over there, get some organic asparagus. They got a Native Foods, 100% the vegan restaurant, which sucks now. Yeah, I said it. Sponsor the show, and then I won't admit that it sucks. I won't say it's good, but I won't say it sucks. But we go over there for some of the finer things, and then we scurry back to the hood with the stuff under our arms, stuffed in our bags. We call that siphoning off of the nice neighborhoods. I don't want to live over there. I ain't trying to live amongst them people. But they do have some nice things over there. And I say go over there and enjoy it. Make them uncomfortable. Talk your brokenish English and wear your saggiest pants. And walk right down 53rd Street where all these good uppity real Americans, all these Trump voters, secret Trump voters dwell. But anyway, what the hell has that got to do? But anyway, but what I'm saying, I was talking about Bobby Rush. Sorry. He's always around them parts. I see him and I say, hey, to my wife, hey, there go Bobby Rush. She's like, I don't care. Quit pointing that man out to me. I don't care. But I'm into politics. I follow politicians like y'all follow pro athletes. I want to know their voting record. You know, I want to know who's sponsoring them. You know, how much money they get from Bechtel and Hollywood. But, you know, so I follow different things, you know. So, yeah, like y'all got excited about LeBron going back to Cleveland. I got excited when Bernie announced his bid for president. And then, you know, when y'all get mad when LeBron, I don't know, what can LeBron do to make y'all mad? I don't know. He's King James. What can he do? But I got mad when he endorsed Hillary. You know, I get excited like, man, no, you did, dang, dog. But nobody wants to talk to me in the locker room, at the gym, about politics and the machinations and competitions and competing policies and ideologies and politics. Nobody wants to talk that. They want to talk Curry, Chef Curry. And they want to talk Jordan reaching another $1 billion status. I don't know. But anyway, my point is, the U.S. Congressman, oh, see, didn't think I'd find my way back. The U.S. Congressman opened up. He ain't say homeless black children. He didn't say, listen, if you live in the hood and you got a bounty on your head, make your way to my D.C. office, make your way to my Chicago offices, and I will shelter you. He didn't say, you getting evicted from your house, young mother, single mother, you've been denied health care or treatment, make your way to my office. I understand, there wasn't no political cachet for that. Because, I mean, apparently, Chicago, if I'd had hair, I'd be pulling it out. Because I don't understand how black Chicago votes. I remember Ron was running again. But this is a rabbit hole. And I promise this is the last one of the day. I'm going to get right back on the topic. There's too much going on. But when Chewy was running against Rahm Emanuel, and then black people was like, a lot of prominent black, I'm not going to say y'all names. Now, y'all can expose yourselves, but I think it's the dumbest thing where black folks was like, if Chewy gets into office, the Mexicans going to take over everything. I ain't going to lie, I voted for Chewy. I voted for Chewy in the election. I voted for Chewy in the runoff. I voted for Chewy. I thought it was kind of tacky that he kept, you know, dragging Harold Washington out his butt. I don't care that you was on Harold Washington's staff, man. Step off. You know. But I think black people fear potential threats more than we fear active threats, which blows my mind. You know. It's like you're inside of a burning house and it's like, look, there's an exit. I'm not running outside that burning house. Who knows what's outside on the other side of that door? I'll stay in here where I know there's a fire. But who knows what's on the other side of the door? You know? Now, I don't understand that. But people were talking crazy and y'all let Rahm slither back in there. It just blows my mind. I'm not even going to get into the policy. I mean, everybody knows the state of black Chicago. You got people in the maquiladoras. You got people in the favelas of Brazil like, damn, poor Chicago. People living in the worst conditions. You probably got people in Yemen and Syria like, yeah, you know, we're under, you know, siege, chemical, nuclear attack. But hell, at least we're not in Chicago. We know how bad stuff is. So, I mean, just the general rule of thumb is, if stuff ain't good for you, when the election cycle comes, whoever's there got to go. I don't even know where they go. I don't even know who's coming in. But right now, I mean, that's just a general rule of thumb. I don't know how or why. And black folks have the numbers and the concentration. Well, it's dwindling. You're being diluted. But I guess, I mean, you won't recognize the loss or erosion of political power if you didn't exercise your power when you had more power. And we got black leaders. I wish, man, I could chop in the throat every black leader talking about don't vote. I wish I could chop all of y'all in the throat. We just had an off-cycle election where only 17%, not 17% of the total population, but only 17% of the registered eligible voters, who sometimes can be as low as 30% of a population or lower, because you got little kids who can't vote. You got felons who can't vote. You got non-citizen residents or aliens, whatever, who can't vote. So sometimes the voting population is small relative to the total population. So just for those who were registered and eligible to vote, only 17% voted in this recent alderman election. You know, and just off of GP, and one of the winner of that election was literally handpicked by the unpopular, unloved, blatantly racist, a mayor who hides atrocities, who shunts resources away from needy areas and heaps abundant resources, industrial projects and infrastructure projects in the wealthy areas while leaving the poorer areas to rot. A blatant racist, a blatant classist, you know. His hand-picked politician just waltzed into office with 63% of 17%. You know. So just a handful of organized and conscious people, if just 3% of the black community, of the voting population in the third ward, not even all of Chicago, had given as much attention to local politics as they give to anything. If brothers paid 1/10 the amount of attention to politics as they did to sports. And it just blows my mind every time I hear these damn mouth breathers going over sports statistics. Who's going to get traded to what? You can name the entire draft picks for the next 10 years. You looking at grade school students, 8th graders, and making projections about, you know, who's going to be in the NBA and what their contracts and what corporations going to sponsor these ball chasers. You can't take a minute to figure out who are the 5 politicians running, who going to determine everything from your trash pickup to snow removal. I mean, that kind of stuff is important, man. But you so militant you won't vote. And all I got to say is I'm fine if you don't vote. But if your dumbass don't vote, you bet not be. Because guess what's the most corrupt element of this society is the economy. Black people have the least amount of standing in the most corrupt institution, which is the economy of America. We got what? 1/16 the wealth? Even the conservative estimate saying if all economic parameters remain the same, it would take black people 130 to 160 years to reach economic parity with white folks. You can't win, you can't make it, and you can't get out of the game. But even though it's corrupt, even though we are disadvantaged, even though it's blatantly discriminatory, and even though it'll take us a lot of struggle and a lot of hard work to get seen and heard and to get any economic standing, every single black leader is like, get that money and then give it to me. Send me money. Raise some money. Open a business. Every black leader, from the militant to the integrationist. So you can't tell me, oh, even though we're at great disadvantage, talking about they don't count our vote. Fool, they don't count our money either. So all I'm saying is, if you're going to say, well, telling black folks don't participate in something because you are at a disadvantage and they don't count it, you think any multinational corporation right now is sitting around like, well, we can't do this because it might offend our black consumers. They don't give a damn about you. And it's so blatant. Oscar's so white. Okay, here, niggas, 3 major Oscar wins. What, best actress, supporting actress, and something else. Here. Now, run along, niggers. Let us get back to our white propaganda apparatus that is the Hollywood movie industry. And we satiate it. So they don't count us. So I'm saying, if we're going to be, you know, David Goliath in the economy, why can't we be David Goliath in politics? David Goliath in education. Education don't represent us either. But you don't hear no black leader saying, oh, I don't want no money. I'm going to take off this tacky suit, get this conch on my hair, wrap this loincloth around my groin, and go live in the forest because I ain't dealing with no corrupt economic system. They don't say that. I don't hear no black leaders saying stay out of school. Well, you do have some. We got to build our own schools. And what you teach them in schools, how to achieve within their system. Even the most militant, kill whitey black school is trying to prepare their kids for what? College. They brag, and the selling point is, hey, our kids get into the best colleges, Harvard and Yale. So you giving an African-centered education just to reintegrate them into a Eurocentric workforce and economy and higher education system. But I'm not an educator. I'm not an academic. I don't understand that logic. So maybe y'all smarter than me on that. So all I'm saying is, by the damn time, you know, you telling black folks not to participate and engage politically, it only follows. The logic says, then you should tell them to disengage economically too. Because any criticism you can level against the economic system can level against the political system and vice versa. So if the political system's too dirty, or we're too powerless in the political system to get any headway, which isn't true. Everybody like, I ain't voting. Like, fine, don't vote for Hillary, Bernie, Trump. Don't vote for them. That's fine. Guess what? Guess how the ballot worked? There were like, 26 ballot initiatives? You know, there were ballot initiatives dealing with water quality. There was ballot initiatives on the ballot for you to vote on dealing with school resource disbursement and school funding and taxation and housing codes. All that crap is on the ballot too. So even if you're like, oh, hey, the president, yeah, I agree. The federal government is probably where we get the most immediate outcomes. But that's only if you care about people across the world. If you on some Trump stuff, if you're a Negro nationalist, America first, and you're on some Black America first, and you're like, to hell with Haiti, to hell with, happy Ghana Independence Day, to hell with Ghana, to hell with Somalia, Sudan, and you don't care because, I mean, foreign policy, that's where the president, that's the biggest thing you need to be concerned about when I vote for president. And Obama was and continues to be a foreign policy nightmare for black people around the globe. From Africa to the Caribbean. But we ain't going to rehash Obama's out of office. But his policies are still in play. Right now, the Republicans' biggest headache is trying to figure out how to repeal the Affordable Care Act, trying to rework Obama's immigration DACA. So Obama's impact. Presidents serve 4 years, but their legacy can last decades. Just ask anybody who was around during the Reagan era. So yeah, it's still appropriate to talk about Obama. We still talking about the stuff FDR did. Hell, the stuff George Washington did and the precedent he set. George Washington didn't have term limits, but he only served 2 terms, which had reverberations all the way till now. Well, until America's first truly socialist president got 4 terms. But he's an anomaly. Because America, as much as it loves socialism, much as it claims to be capitalist, it sure loves its share of socialism. But I'm way off topic. All that to say is, hallelujah, Goddess bless you. Thank you, Black Chicago, for a full week of no homicides. Glory, look at God. I say that, of course, I'm mocking. God ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Stop putting stuff on God. Keep God's name out your mouth. Blame him. All right, so anyway, let's move on. Let's move on, because this is I'm a happy day. It's just good news. But then let's go to a tragic event. And I know people getting mad at me because they say I don't stay on topic. And like I said, I'm not a professional. I never claimed. I didn't take communications. I didn't take radio broadcasting. You know, it's kind of funny how I came to be in this seat. Someday I'll retell that story. But I don't want to get too off topic because people are on here judging me and my level of professionality. I don't cuss. You know, FCC, middle finger to y'all. I could say middle and finger because that's not a curse word, even though it comes together when you fuse it with the hyphen and it means something. You can't catch me like y'all getting Trump. Hey, can I just, all right, Trump said that Obama's tapping his phone, never leaving him alone. Trump been listening to too much Public Enemy. Trump said Barack Hussein Obama was wiretapping him. Now, first of all, believe it or not, the president doesn't have any authority. Isn't supposed to have authority to just go wiretap somebody. Even though, you know, but since when has you know, America now, I don't know, but the whole United States of America, ever seen a couple whose relationship is basically over. But they try to hold it together, I don't know, for their kids, or because the money ain't right, you know, they don't want to split up the house, or just the man, you know, the woman don't want him, and he knows the longer he stay with her, the more miserable she is, and he hates her so much he want to keep her miserable. Whatever. But then they have the point where they're being polite. Hello, dear. Well, hello, my beloved husband. What's for dinner tonight? Oh, steak and potatoes. And then they sit down and everything, but then they get to the point where they don't even pretend no more. Now, what the hell you doing, you old ratchet hoe? Oh, shut up, you old no good, small pecker, scumbag. And, you know, they don't even, the pleasantries are over. They don't even pretend to be a married couple anymore. She's sleeping on the couch. He's sleeping in the bedroom. You know, she'll be in the house blatantly talking to her boyfriend, and he'll be, you know, out at the bar with his woman. And they show up at church. And they make everybody around them uncomfortable. Like, damn, can y'all just at least put on airs, and so not to suck us into the vortex of your misery? Yeah, anybody know what I'm talking about when you see, like, and people be like, why don't y'all just get divorced? Why y'all still together? Y'all don't even pretend to be married. Yeah, I'll leave him soon, tell him to get out of my house, and I'm gone. My daddy put the down payment on that house. Well, woman, I made all the mortgage payments since we've been together. You know, they got all this, and they just so hateful. And they don't have, you know, there's certain things in marriage. You know, you have to tell your spouse good things and compliment them. Yeah, you fight, yeah, you get mad, but then there's like the ebb and flow. Like, the United States is like, we ain't pretending to be a country no more. To the republic for which it stands. F the Constitution. F any level of political discourse. You know, it's like, I mean, I think these Europeans, these white Trump voters are like, to hell with this civilization stuff. You know, we don't even want to pretend. We have to pretend to like the Negroes. We have to pretend to like the Mexicans. We have to pretend to like laws. We have to pretend like we just don't want what we want and pretend like we want justice for everybody when we know damn well we only want what we can get, and to hell with everybody else. America first. We want bigger nukes, a bigger military so that we can threaten anybody that gets in our way. We don't want this diplomacy. We don't want these treaties. We just want to say, give us your stuff or we'll bomb you to the Stone Age. And we're like, damn, America? Can you pretend to be a country? I mean, the diplomatic service and the UN? Can you at least build in walls? This ain't the Great Wall of China type. Like, America, these white folks are done pretending to be members of civilized society. They like sick of pretending. They goddamn, you know, Captain Caveman. You know, like they sick of, I don't know, somebody broke them. I don't know if it was Obama, and Obama was such a statesman. Yeah, Obama would bomb you to the Stone Age. Kill babies. You know, Edward Snowden, like I said, Snowden, shout out. Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, shout out. We know Obama did all the dirt, but Obama at least came home with flowers on Valentine's Day. You know, he got 3 mistresses spread all around town. He was seeing 3 or 4 other countries behind our back. But Obama was like, hey, I can't be with you tonight, baby. I got to go home to my wife. It's our anniversary. I don't want to get too blatant with it. I don't want to be too, I want to still pretend like I'm in a marriage. And so he'd come home with flowers and chocolates. He'd go to Thanksgiving dinner with her family and hold hands with everybody as they prayed over the food. He would go through the motions of marriage. And at this point, this is all the American voter can ask. You know? And so now Trump comes in and he's like, no, I'm going to parade my girlfriend into the house. And the wife been sleeping on the couch every night. They don't even pretend. But they still go out to the grocery store. Why don't y'all go to the grocery store apart from each other? So you don't make everybody in the grocery store. Like, all the other countries around the world are so uncomfortable. You know, you got like American diplomats coming through. And then other diplomats from other nations have to pretend like this diplomat from the United States represents a sane nation. Like, oh, well, hello, American ambassador. And the American ambassador like, what the hell do you want, boy? What do y'all want from us now? You take advantage of us. I go, Trump said, all these other nations taking advantage of America. So he's hiring he's going to the trailer park, setting up these fold-out tables and aluminum fold-out chairs and taking applications for high-ranking government positions. And now you got American politicians going to places like Ghana, Ghana Independence Day, going to Panama, and saying to these small little besieged countries, They got a U.S. military base on their soil. Stop taking advantage of us. Going to the Philippines. Filipinos, y'all been taking advantage of us long enough. Can you believe it? It's like the plantation master and mistress going to the slave shacks talking about y'all taking advantage of us. You know how many chitlins every month we have to slop for you? Stop taking advantage of the master. I'm just everybody. All you slaves are taking advantage of the master. Like, well, you could let us go, and then we would. No, calm down. Because I mean, United States. If you really want to put America first and say stop taking advantage, shut down all your 200 plus. What 293? It ain't even 293 countries. Shut down all your foreign military bases. Step one, if you want other nations, you want America first, America only, because you know how many good red-blooded American boys are sent away from their families. Shut down all foreign military bases. Step two, stop bringing in all the products from other people's countries. Step number three, stop sending out all of these modes. Say, hey, this is America first. Ain't no more multinational corporations. If you go abroad to do business outside of God bless America, it ain't even America. They call it God bless America. Where do you live? I live in God bless America. Tell all those foreign nations, Ford Motor Company, GE, Apple, Microsoft, Bechtel, tell all these big multinational monsters and your financial institutions to build an economic wall. Stop doing business with funny people in funny clothes talking funny talk. Come back to God bless America and just do business in America. You know, if y'all could keep it real. But how you got tentacles all over the world, military and economic tentacles in everybody's freaking country. But talk about, but anyway, this is, like I said, the United States is done pretending to be a country. And you can still vote, you can still be, like, say the anthem, but listen. This is a kleptocracy. This is a criminal enterprise. It's been captured. You know, the United States stopped being a country the day it really elected Reagan. It's a hustle now. A great, big, giant hustle. Now, you do have some local municipalities, some local governance, where you have real bureaucrats, real politicians, real statesmen who are conducting the business of state. But the federal government is done. It's done. You know, and there's a couple of authors you can read, Chris Hedges, Morris Berman. I can't remember the guy, but there's a book. It's going to be hard to get because it's actually, you know, like a beloved white nationalist racist book where they read just like, they read this book. It's called Civil War II, The Coming Breakup in America. It's like a 20-year-old book. And white nationalists read this book because they just have this fantasy that there's going to be this grand race war. And all the white people will finally wake up to the white genocide, take up arms, and fight off the hordes of brown and black people that are just coming after their women. And they're going to rise up and take back God bless America, just like their great ancestors fought off the evil Indian hordes who were trying to stop God's will and manifest destiny. But aside from that nonsense that's in the book, there's another element of the book where they deal with the actual politics and logistics. Because this guy is a military strategist. And he basically breaks down the country into sectors and how, you know, you have nations like California and Mississippi who have two fundamental different ideologies. And Mississippi, how Mississippi is basically leeching off of California. And eventually California is going to be like, listen, we could be self-contained. We grow a lot of food, we have a lot of natural and raw resources, and we have a lot of diplomatic ties with other nations just as a state, not as in that are independent of the federal government. So why don't we just break off? And they might go up to what they call, what's that? Seattle, Washington State, and say, hey, we're breaking off. Want to come with? And have our food, patchouli, yoga, Buddhism, you know, white hippie utopia. You know, and then we got old stank-ass Arizona, old stank-ass redneck Texas, old stank-ass Bible Belt. Let's just leave them. That, and you know, he talks about the potentiality. And it's a term. It happens so frequently in imperial nations. It's called balkanization. I don't know what it was called before the 90s in the Balkanized wars, but it's called the balkanization. where you have some states that are wealthy and resource rich and rather large and a large population, and you have places like North and South Dakota that carry as much weight in the Senate as California. So you got states with barely 2 million citizens that have equal say in the government as states with hundreds of millions, millions upon millions, clusters of states. And they're saying, so, you know, how do you get these semi-literate rednecks into office? Because you can run statewide party in Mississippi, it's relatively easy to win, or these sparsely populated areas and gerrymandered areas. And then you have places, the population centers. So the United States, I mean, when I was in grad school, my whole thesis was on the obsolescence of the Constitution. You know, the Constitution has a lot of obsolete and dysfunctional policies. And there needs to be a constitutional convention that finally includes, and I don't believe none of this. I think we should just tear this whole thing down, sorry. And I was just threatening the FCC. I'm just not on point this morning. But anyway, I think we should dismantle all these systems and institutions. But when you're in school, in their institutions, you can't just say, burn down, burn down Babylon, and then write that on a paper 1,000 times and turn it in as your thesis, you know. So I was basically saying that, you know, the everything from the Bill of Rights to the meat and potatoes, the U.S. Constitution just doesn't work in a modern society. There's a lot of things in society now and around the world now that the so-called founding rapists, founding pedophiles, founding invaders, founding fathers, you know, those rapists, pedophile, invader, murderers, enslavers that are on our currency and that have monuments built to them all over this nation. Those guys, there was just things they couldn't anticipate. They did a damn good job, you know. But they wrote a constitution for you know, damn near, they were barely out of the medieval period. You know, how you got a pre-industrial constitution, agrarian constitution, that is governing and then the minor amendments that they make, it's just not adequate. So the dysfunction of the state is inherent. And then you could bring in black folks, women, Asians, like all the people who were not allowed to have their say in the original Constitution. But that's crazy talk. They're going to hold to this till it breaks, because things that don't bend going to break. So America's going to eventually balkanize, and there will be massive kill-offs and die-offs. But black people, y'all, it's not going to be blacks versus whites. You know, and feminists, it's not going to be men taking up arms against just women. There's so many divisions just amongst white people. You know how much killing white people have to do just amongst white folks before they get down to just the white folks who want to kill black folks? You know, there's a lot of divisions. We have the same myth. White folks have the myth of the monolithic black hordes, and we have the myth of the monolithic white hordes. But there's a lot of internal divides. You really think Ukrainians are going to unite with Italians, are going to unite with German and of lineage and all, come after black folks? That's just not how it works. They are willing to take the bounty of our exploitation. But when it comes to getting their own hands dirty, that's a different discussion. You know, and they don't report on it because it happens in rural America. But white folks are blowing each other and shooting and killing each other as much as we are in the hood. You know, white on white crime. You know, what they say, upwards, almost 90% of all white folks who are killed by other white folks. So, that's it. People kill where they live. Anyway, let's take the break. Actually, and then we're going to come back into the topic of the day, because I want to touch on the effeminization of black men. But also, today, one other historical tidbit, which I want to share, is the Dred Scott decision was handed down today. And I want to get into this a bit, because I think we missed. And maybe I'll just share this, because, you know, just so we can just get kind of like the formal history. Because there's something to this Dred Scott thing I think we're missing. But back, rewind selector, bring it back selector. There's something else I need to get into before I get into that. Today's topic was actually effeminization. And I think we need to talk about this, because what's crazy is I had just broached the subject somewhat of misogyny, homosexuality, and effeminization, which are all interrelated, but they're not the same thing. You know, and you would think maybe you would find, but because it's a sensitive topic. I mean, literally, I'm not even joking. I have received death threats from black men. But some it's just the passing thing. They like to say this whole, I find a lot of people saying this. A lot of black folks from a lot of different ideologies will say, before we can get ahead, we got to get rid of you. We ain't going to advance till we get rid of you. And so, you know, and that's basically white nationalists. That's white death cult talk. I mean, we just, everything they do, we going to do for some reason. But anyway, you got guys on there. One guy was saying that we got to bring down all women. The women can't be part of our organizations because women will bring us down. And he blames the whole erosion of the civil rights movement. Not on COINTELPRO. Not on the multinational corporations in collusion with government officials. Not on historic racism, Jim Crowism, chattel slavery. He blames it on feminists. And in particular, black feminists. So all these macho, chest-thumping, shotgun-toting black men were brought down by feminists who never fired a shot. And my thing is, if they were that vulnerable, then the feminists pretty much saved these fools, because if just a black woman asserting that, hey, I am fully human and I want my full human rights respected, if that could erode your movement, then you're lucky. Like if I'm headed down the street and somebody like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to smack Mike Tyson across the mouth. And that person tackles me and holds me down, I might be mad at that moment, but once I have a moment to reconsider, I would probably be like, man, I'm sure glad that sister brought me down before I got to my intended target. So if the true target of the black nationalists, this ain't even the civil rights movement, this is the black nationalist movement. These are the militant armed uprising, Black Liberation Army, you know, Republic of New Africa. These are the MOVE organization of the militant blacks, not the integrationist blacks. And if they were brought down by black women, it's only because, like, if I can bring you down, you're probably not in a position to go up against the Pentagon, you know, the CIA, you know, the rednecks throughout, you know, the Bible Belt. You're probably not ready. So if that is, it's not the case, but it's fun to deal with fantasy. I mean, y'all give millions of dollars to preachers every Sunday to speculate about fiction. So let me speculate about fiction for pennies. I'll speculate and give you fiction for free. And you got to give me 10% of your pre-tax income. But anyway, so if black women did bring down all these militant, leather-clad, beret-wearing, leather glove-wearing, shotgun-toting black men, it's only because she saw you was on your way to an ass whooping. Because, I mean, if these sisters did bring you down, and if a few women asserting their rights and wanting to play a respected and valid role in the struggle of their people, if that's what brought you down, then you should have been brought down. But that wasn't what brought us down. It wasn't. There's no historical evidence that black women, in fact, there's more documented evidence that these macho black men, Cleaver, sneeze, cough, Cleaver, sneeze, cough, even Bobby Seale, sneeze, cough, Bobby Rush, sneeze, cough, Milana Karinga. And there's more evidence that these macho, chest-up, burly black men, the black kind of black men we all supposed to be, black men with multiple wives and multiple guns, played more of a role of submitting to our oppressors, selling out the reals, selling out Fred Hampton, selling out Bunchy Carter, Mark Clark, selling out John G. Jackson, George Jackson, Jonathan Jackson. You know, they played more of a role than any feminist could have ever hoped to play, even the man-hating feminists who swear that testosterone is the world's most dangerous substance. But that's the myth. That's the myth. So anyway, I kind of bring it up to this guy, like, man, you know, and dude's like, I'm a simp. I've been called a simp quite a bit. It never really bothers me. You know, it doesn't bother me because it's so inaccurate. I mean, when people call me something that's totally just way off base. But I don't even know, really. I think a simp, what I've discovered, what I've pretty much distilled down, like, what was I doing? What kind of behavior was I engaged in when I got called a simp? And I pretty much figured out what a simp really is. A simp is any man, number one. The worst thing if you're a simp, if you show any affection or intimacy towards a black woman or black women in general, that isn't sexual. So any non-sexual intimacy or affection is simping. Because if you're giving a woman your time and attention, then you should be ready to smang. That's smash and bang. You should be trying to, as my Guyanese friend would say, jump she draws. Is she the pole? You know, in a more crass way. You should be, the only affection that a woman is worthy to receive is sexual attention. But if I'm just like, I want to compliment her, I want to show her that she matters, I want to show her that I'm concerned about her, but I'm not interested in sex with this woman, or at this particular time with this woman, then you simping. Because that's what caught me whenever I would say, well, women did not bring down the black liberation struggle. That's just a myth. Then I'm simping. And so another way of simping is saying anything that is, disputing any assertions from a black man about the deceptiveness, the evil, the treasonous behaviors of black women, countering that. Even if you come with historical facts, even if you come with evidence saying, look, the COINTELPRO papers have been published. Ward Churchill has published these papers. There have been Freedom of Information Acts and documentation that there were a lot of dudes, macho dudes, who weren't gay, who didn't wear a dress, who would thump their chest, had hair on their chest and their knuckles, manly as brawny as men, the kind of men that other men admire, the kind of men that these heterosexual, cisgendered, macho men seem to salivate over. And they did more to undermine and betray and take payoffs from the government than any women you can point to. Even if you have evidence. So if you in any way try to counter or dispute the claim that black women are a treasonous element within our community, you know, then, or like Tariq Nasheed said, black women even had it better in slavery. Tariq Nasheed said things weren't so bad for black women in slavery because they got to have sex with the master. And of course, sex is good, especially a woman. When a man deems you worthy of sex, then every woman should, do the Holy Ghost dance. So he said it. It's recorded. It's on YouTube. He didn't deny it. The only thing Tariq Nasheed said is, I said that 10 years ago. And Lord knows, I can't hold nothing against anything anybody said. I gotta sometimes, I can't stand by things I said yesterday. So I don't expect you to hold you accountable for what you said 10 years ago. All you gotta do is say, and it was inappropriate, it was wrong, I no longer hold that view. And I apologize for it. I mean, and it's wrong. It's incorrect. That's all. But he didn't say that. He just said, oh, don't come to me with something I said 10 years ago. But this is the kind of, and you're a simp if you come and say, no, slavery was as horrendous for the black woman as it was for black men. Say, oh, no, I'm sorry, but there's no documented historical evidence. There's nothing in the revealed COINTELPRO papers or any other national security documents that show that black women were any more treasonous to the black liberation struggle than black men. There is not even any documented evidence that the black woman had any more of a role in the so-called destruction of the black family than the black men did. And in fact, you can't really blame black people for that agenda. Anytime you say anything other than nod your head when a black man is saying the most ridiculous stuff, leveling the most ridiculous accusations against black women, anything less than, yeah, sir, you right on, homie, fist bump. Anything less than that, you're a simp. So trying to be accurate about the role black women have played in our history, you a simp. Trying to show non-sexual affection towards your own black woman or black women in general, you a simp. Now, I don't know. And then there's this whole thing, if you're giving money to a woman if she's in need. There's this panhandler on Roosevelt. She has this wonderful sign. She creates these signs with sparkles, and she puts glitter. I've never seen a panhandler do this. She's right off the Roosevelt when you're getting off on 94 North on the Roosevelt exit. She really does her little panhandling signs really well. So me giving her money, I'm simping. Giving money to hoes. So giving any of the money that the white man gave you, now when you accept the money from the white man, you ain't a hoe. Well, I literally have some tea here, and I'm literally about to sip it. Now, let me repeat myself. Giving the money, the fiat currency that you earned or received from the white man to a black woman is simping. But receiving the money ain't simping. Oh, well. Anyway, I'm going to get more into this. Because this is a curious phenomenon. Because the reason it's so interesting to me, because I was there. I was never at the point of some of these guys. So I'm not about to carry their baggage. But I was a black Puritan. I was an Afro-sexist. And many of it was rooted in my own Judeo-Christian upbringing. Because I was raised in an anti-woman faith. Indoctrinated. I attended a Catholic high school and graduated from Catholic high school. I started off in the Methodist church, and then we jumped to become Baptist. I was baptized in the Baptist church, and I, unlike most Christians, I actually read the Bible. And the God of the Bible not only dislikes women, he's afraid of women. But then I got conscious. I woke up. The light was revealed for me in a book called The Message to the Black Man in America. So I got off swine, abandoned Christ, and I tried to go join Islam, which is just as sexist. Allah is just as afraid and hateful towards women. So, even when I'm like, there really is no God. There are no angels, no ghosts. There were no prophets who ascended to heaven that will one day return. The prophets, just like everybody else, are rotten in the ground, soon to be fossilized. When I realized that, there was so much residual stuff I still had in my head about men and who men are and women who women are. And it took me, I had to, through most of my 20s. Even though I abandoned that God nonsense and the Judeo-Christian misogynistic religions in my youth, that indoctrination runs deep. And man, if I held that indoctrination even into now in my 40s, I'd probably never be able to shake it. And it's not easy to admit and look in the mirror and say, wow, look at me. I'm full of crap. And the things I believe in, the things that, make me feel warm and cozy and feel like I matter in the world, it just ain't true. That's not an easy thing to do. But we got to do it. That's internal revolution. You can't think of you're going to have a political, economic, social, continental, global revolution if you can't have an internal sit in the room by yourself and deal with your own issues type revolution. Anyway, that's what we're going to come back to. And then, but then I want to talk about a certain element of the Dred Scott case, too. So let me play Blitz the Ambassador, which is my favorite Guyanese artist. And then when we come back from the break, wait, before I do that, I want to play the national anthem of Ghana in honor of Ghana's Independence Day. And then, after the national anthem of Ghana, we're going to play my favorite Guyanese musical artist. And then we'll come back and try to deal with Dred Scott. And then after Dred Scott, we're going to come back to this effeminization thing. And if we don't get through it, if we don't get to it and get through it, then we'll pick it up again Wednesday. This is the Diallo Show. And again, hey, I didn't write this anthem. Don't put it on me. It's these people anthem, and that's if they like it, then good for them. Oh, thanks for listening to me on live. Continue to listen on q4.org. The link is at the top of this video. You can listen on the radio at AM 1680 if you're in the Chicago area. Again, thanks for going on live. Please go to the Diallo Kenyatta website and support, make a donation, become a Patreon supporter, because that helps to sustain the show, helps get me out of bed at 5 in the morning to get here and do the show prep. Got some wonderful guests coming up too. So please support. Thanks you to everyone who is supporting by listening, by getting the word out, and by putting up, just $1 a month is more than enough. More than I'm worthy of. And I really appreciate y'all and thank y'all. So we're going till 9. So please continue to listen online. Peace.